Welcome to the Candle Business Coach podcast. I'm your host, Kirsty Allen, and I am the Candle Business Coach. I'm also a mum of three and a kindness advocator. This podcast is all about making and selling candles, business development, and mindset, delivered to you with advice, inspiration, and motivation in a new episode every Friday. Are you a candle maker looking for support, strategy, and a like-minded community? Then you need to check out the Candle Makers Collective. The Candle Makers Collective is my exclusive membership where you get weekly live group coaching, expert guidance, and a supportive network of fellow candle makers so you never feel stuck or alone in your business. There's also an ever-growing library of helpful resources, including ebooks, social media guides, templates, and more. So if you're looking to take your business to the next level and learn more about the membership for candle makers, click the link in the show notes for the Candle Makers Collective. Welcome back to the podcast, my friend. Today we have the beautiful Nicole from AUZi Insurance. Now, for those of you playing along, you'll know that back in December 22 and a half years ago, in episode 13, Nicole was on the podcast to chat about all things insurance. So we're still staying in the vein of insurance, but this time we're focusing on car diffusers, what you need to know. So, Nicole, would you like to introduce yourself to listeners that may not know who you are?
I'm from AUZi Insurance, and we specialise in liability insurance for small handmade niche businesses, with candles being one of them and soaps and car diffusers all falling into that realm. I've worked in insurance since I was 21 and I'm now 37 at the end of the year, so a little while. And yeah, I guess the team here at AUZi, we just like to focus on the smaller businesses and narrow in on those handmade niches. That's where we really flourish and what we really like.
So when it comes to car diffusers and insurance claims, can you let us know what's actually been happening?
So over the last few years, it hasn't just been this year, but this summer has been a definite spike. Generally, when summer comes around, we do see an influx of car diffuser claims. So what's happening is people are buying car diffusers, hanging them on their revision mirror typically, and then the contents is leaking onto the dash. And the contents, depending on how you make your car diffuser, but majority of them will strip the lining of a dash of a car. And they can get quite expensive. So some car models, replace the dash fairly cheap, under $1,000, but some you have to replace the whole thing and it can be really quite expensive. So we see claims ranging anywhere from the $1,000 up to tens of thousands of dollars. And yeah, so each year we would see a few come in and we handle them fine, and the policy, our soap and candle makers policy, covers car diffusers. This year we've seen more than 7 claims come in, I think closer to 10, and all around the same sort of thing. And I guess everyone's opinions on it and take on it is different and it's varying. So it is, I guess, worrying for us that people have I don't want to say low care, but some people are like, oh, well, it's the customer's fault. They hung it in their car. They knew the risk, they took the risk, and it's, too bad, so sad. And other people are, really trying to do the right thing and source the right type of car diffuser and educate their customers. And I guess we're really just wanting to encourage people to do that, educate their customers correctly and try and minimise that risk as much as possible.
If you think about what the impact is, not only for the customer, their vehicle, but also the experience they've had with you and your business, and any negative experience, any negative reviews, it can be so damaging for your business and for your business's journey. So it very much needs to be about the education side and making sure that we're, sending the care cards, we're talking about it on social media. We email our list and remind them regularly about how to use our products safely, not just car diffusers, definitely candles and, room sprays and reed diffusers and everything too. That education piece is so important, because we as candle makers and car diffuser makers and soap makers and makers in general, we can become a little bit complacent because we're so used to how to do things, quote unquote, the right way. But our customers aren't involved in our businesses as we are. They don't know all the intricacies. And when it comes to protecting their vehicles, in this case with the car diffusers, I just can't imagine how devastating that would be for everyone involved if something like that happened.
Yeah, that's right. I think as well, it is such a shock to the consumer, your customer, they're buying a car diffuser to make their car smell pretty and make their car a more enjoyable place. And when the complete opposite happens, I feel like it can be really quite upsetting for them. And also the maker, like majority of makers are devastated when a claim arises. It's no one's intention to cause damage to a customer. And obviously that's never what people want. So it is really high emotions for all parties involved when these types of claims do arise, unfortunately.
Yeah, I can only imagine how upsetting and distressful it would be for the makers and the customers. And being the insurance company, do you find that you're dealing with the customer and the maker, or just the maker and their insurance company for the customer?
I guess it really depends. Like every claim is situational. So sometimes the customer who has the damaged car can be quite upset. And depending on how they handle it, we will get involved. So if they, sometimes they can be quite abusive as well. And like, some people choose the angry route rather than the nice route. So sometimes we will try and step in there and help mitigate that situation as well. But typically what we want to try and do is pass it all over to the insurer as quickly as possible so the insurer can get involved and start negotiating and speaking directly with the customer with the damaged vehicle, just trying to get that claim moving as quickly as possible and the car back to where it needs to be. And that also helps minimise everyone's emotions.
I think at the end of the day, I imagine the customers whose cars have been impacted just want to be heard and validated and reassured that the situation will be resolved as quickly as possible. But it is an inconvenience, and it can be quite devastating if, their car is their prized possession and something like this happens. What actually is causing the damage? Like, is it leakage? Is it that the vessel's overheating and exploding? Can you explain how it actually happens in the first place?
It's a bit of both, to be honest. A lot of leakage is probably the most common, but we have had a few where the vessels have broken. From a maker's perspective, I guess we're trying to make as much profit as possible from our products, and car diffusers are a really good one and a top seller for a lot of people because you kind of can make them fairly competitively and sell them, and you've got a good profit margin on that. So we do find some people then kind of take to places like Temu and just online providers that are not very reputable to buy those car diffuser vessels, like especially the hanging ones. And the quality of those are not great. I'm sure you probably can find some good quality ones, but a large portion of coming in through there are not great quality. So we'll definitely find those ones that are coming off, like the knot that's tying it on to the revision mirror will give way, or depending on how the customer is driving their car, sometimes the rope will be too long and it's hit the windscreen and caused it to break. And also when customers are refilling in their vehicles. So a lot of times people are selling the car diffuser refills, and then the customer is doing that in the vehicle, probably while they're on the run, on the way to work or something. Hopefully not stopped at a set of light. And spillages then will occur as well.
Isn't that interesting that they're refilling the bottle, the jar, it's causing a leakage, and then they're coming for the maker in terms of, this has damaged my vehicle, I want you to resolve this?
Yeah, so the thing with it is the content, so the car diffuser liquid is known to damage a car. So as a maker, we are making a product and saying, hey, this is designed for your car, put it in your car, knowing full well that the product will damage your car if it got spilled on there. So I guess there's some negligence in that, knowing that we're giving you a product that's like, this product is for you to use in your vehicle, and we know this product will damage your vehicle if it is spilt on it. And a lot of those diffuser vessels aren't necessarily spill proof. Like the whole point of them is to disperse some liquid and smell. So it's a bit of a catch-22, unfortunately, with it. But I think it does come back to educating. And I think a lot of makers, we're always looking for ways to make content, and it's just another form of content that you can make to help educate your customers about, just take it inside and refill your car diffuser inside, or, making sure that they're aware that if it does spill on the dash, that you do need to wipe it up and not just quickly wipe over with your hand and get on with your day. Yeah, trying to just minimize those damages as much as possible, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, like, it comes down to the education side and the content pillars that you can come up with in your social media or with your emails. Education has to be one of the biggest ones that we can focus on, because not everyone will hear our message, the very time that we share it. We need to be repeating and making sure that people are aware that there are issues that can arise if products aren't used correctly.
Really upsetting for all parties. Like, definitely a lot of makers, it is a personal thing. Like when your product causes damage to someone or personal injury to someone, we always find the makers are devastated, and some are way more devastated than others, and you wish that you could take it away from them, because it really destroys them for a long time.
Yeah.
The idea of the product has caused damage, because no one sets out for that. Yeah, it is a really devastating moment for a lot of people. Yeah.
How has the influx of claims been affecting the current insurance policies?
Currently, we haven't seen any impact on the policies, but the risk is there. So we are getting some pressure from the insurer to try and mitigate the losses. And that, I guess, is why we're also ramping up on the education around it as well. The risk that we're seeing is car diffusers are covered under our soap and candle makers policy. So under that policy, we're able to cover a larger range of typically bath and body products, and car diffusers don't really fall into that classification. They are definitely a product that our customers make because they're using the same sort of ingredients. And again, that option to make a bit of profit on them is much higher than, say, a bar of soap or a candle in some cases. So ideally, we will never remove car diffusers, but it is a fight that we have to have with the insurer and a lot of back and forth and negotiation. So from our point of view, from AUZi's point of view, we don't ever want to stop covering car diffusers, but maybe there will have to be some more guidelines around it of how you can sell it, what you should be doing, more what needs to go with the car diffuser, so instructions and things like that. Possibly higher premiums for people selling liquid car diffusers. There are definitely ways around car diffusers. So there are different types of car diffusers you can sell that have less risk, but that's all really up in the air at the moment with lots of negotiations going back and forth with the insurer. But we're definitely never going to give up and say, oh, okay, well, car diffusers are a product that we're removing from our supported list, because a lot of our customers do sell them and they are a primary product for them, especially at the market.
So interesting, isn't it? Just thinking about the impact it would have if that soap and candle makers policy did remove the car diffusers as an element. The impact it would have would be quite broad. So it's good to see that you're going into bat for the makers and wanting it to stay as part of the policy.
The way that we're set up as well is we're quite competitive premium-wise on that policy. And the reason we can be competitive is because we have a large number of soap and candle makers. So when we do experience claims of the same going over and over, that can impact the policy for everybody. And that's not what we want to do, because there is still a large portion of our customer base that don't do car diffusers or don't do the liquid car diffusers or the hanging car diffusers. So we don't want to really be negatively impacting people who don't do car diffusers as well. So it's kind of a tightrope we have to walk of trying to keep everybody covered and happy and fair, and not, letting that balance outweigh either way.
What would you say are some practical steps that makers can take to reduce the risk of an incident occurring in the first place?
I think definitely looking at the vessel itself, making sure that it is secure and isn't going to break easily, and really stepping up the education. So I think a lot of people also buy car diffusers as gifts for people. So it's not necessarily just for their own vehicle. So having the conversation with the person who's buying it is one thing, but also having the backup there. So when they do gift it on, the person who's actually received that gift understands the risk and knows how to use the car diffuser correctly. So that could be as simple as videos to show them how to do the refills, even lots of education around the instructions on how to use it and what to do. I don't think anyone should really be recommending to hang the car diffuser off a revision mirror. In some states of Australia, it's actually illegal to hang things from your revision mirror anyway. And that's where we're really seeing most of those claims coming from. So I don't think we should encourage people to do that, possibly encourage them to hang it elsewhere, but definitely not off the mirror.
Yes, I think that's going to be a wake-up call for a lot of makers based on how those diffusers are advertised as being car diffusers rather than hanging it somewhere at home. So I think it'll be educating the makers as well as educating their customers.
That's right. Yeah, I think a lot of makers are totally none the wise that this would happen. And especially if you've been, most makers would make a product for a little while and use it themselves and pass it on to family and friends. And, they might see no issues when family and friends and themselves are using it. But consumers do different things to us, unfortunately, and we can't predict what they're going to do. So it is good to be prepared and just that education piece be the main key there.
And would you say that in terms of warning labels or product packaging, we can also share that education side?
It should always be accompanied with instructions on how to use the car diffuser. And in the event of a claim, that's something the insurer is wanting to see. They want to see what you've provided to the customer, so they can try and ascertain if it was the customer's fault or if it was the maker's fault, like where has this happened and what's fallen over. So definitely all care cards, instructions like that need to go with the car diffuser. And just keeping in mind that if it was gifted onto someone, making it easy for that gift to be passed on with your care instructions. So whether or not that's attached, or there maybe is even a QR code that they can scan and they can go to your website and they can see your how-to videos and things like that, just trying to maximize the spread of it as much as possible.
When it comes down to sharing that knowledge and empowering our customers to use our products safely, whether they're card diffusers, candles, or any of the products we make, it lessens the risk of there being an issue in the future, but also it lessens the risk for the maker in terms of, possible insurance claim that could occur.
It does, 100%. And it also brings our customer back to you. Like if you're giving them a video and maybe that's on your YouTube or your Instagram account, it's bringing them back to you. So if it was gifted on, they'll be like, oh, this card diffuser was amazing. Oh, I remember I watched that video. Oh, I can go buy another one. I want to gift it on. So it's still a touch point of bringing people back to the business and keeping that touch point going forward.
It's not just only posting on social media and that's your only form of advertising. You need to be able to, not saying everyone should have a YouTube channel, but having videos that you have on YouTube or on your website, or sending emails with videos or links to ways that customers can be safe around our products and use them correctly. It shows that you're adding value to their journey with you as well. And like you say, Nicole, like they'll come back to you because you're the one that's provided them with that knowledge.
Yeah, and I think people love to see the face behind the brand, and it's just a bit more personal, right? When you get to see somebody and be like, oh, that person was the person who made my card diffuser and they've taken the time to create all these extra little steps to make my journey better. It goes a long way. And I know, video content can be a bit scary and hard to make, but it is really useful. And I feel like as we get further and further along, less people like to read, I see. Like most people do want to see a little video or listen to something really quickly like a podcast, rather than sit there and read through a whole bunch of instructions.
100%. We're all very time poor and we don't want to sit and read when we can enjoy and watch. And it was funny because yourself and the AUZi team sent out an email talking about the card diffusers. And on the email, you actually linked a YouTube video of yourself chatting about the issues that can come up with card diffusers. And it was so lovely to see, you practicing what you preach in terms of, allowing people to watch a quick video, get a bit of information, and then if they want to look further into it, then they can click other links.
Yeah, and that video did go pretty well for us. I'm not one who loves video content either. Like I don't like doing it, but it's a part of the role, right? So you have to. But it did. And I think a lot of people did click on there and listened to the YouTube video rather than read the email so much. Just, I guess, hammers at home for them and they read that and go, oh, and they've done a video. It's really quite useful to do it. I definitely encourage people to get behind the camera. If you don't want to have your face there and you just kind of want to show someone, like if you're just teaching them how to do the refill, you can just put the camera facing down, looking at your hands and the refill. Like it doesn't have to have your face on there all the time.
Exactly, because that can be quite scary, as you said before, being in front of the camera. Do I have to do my hair and my makeup? And what if I say and you put all this pressure on yourself? But really, it's like people just want to see you. They want to get to know you and the maker behind the business. And that's how connections are formed, when they can actually see your face.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it is really daunting, but I think more you do it as well, easier it becomes. And nobody judges you harder than yourself. I think that's something you have to remember.
So true. What advice would you give to one of the makers that are just starting to make and sell card diffusers?
I would just recommend that they do the testing side of things. So really make sure that they're following the guidelines on fragrance loading with the base product that they're using, and testing that product over and over and making sure that the vessels that they have sourced are good quality. It's not something that I want to discourage people from making, because I do think card diffusers are great and have a place in the market, but I just think we need to take our time and make sure that we're putting out good quality out there. There are other forms of card diffusers as well. They are more expensive than the liquid base, but you can get little discs that are, felted, and there's other ways to go about it as well. So you could look at different methods of card diffusers products as well, rather than just the hanging liquid card diffusers. And just before you start selling, I would recommend getting up all that education about it as well. So just pre-recording how to do the refills, how to hang it, what to do if there was a spill, and creating all that content. So that way, when you are starting to sell, you can push out all that content and your care cards all at the same time.
One of the most important aspects is to make sure you've got insurance as well. So contact Nicole from AUZi and make sure that you're covered in case something does happen.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a good safeguard. I think if you're selling card diffusers, it's a definite you'd want to have insurance, because the claims do happen. We see it, and it's somebody's car. And like we said earlier, like sometimes people just pride their car so high highly. So when it is damaged, it can be really devastating, and you just don't want to be out of pocket that. And sometimes they go up to tens of thousands of dollars to replace the dash, depending on the vehicle make and model. And most small businesses don't have tens of thousands of dollars sitting there for those types of unexpected things to arise. So insurance is handy in that case.
How can makers stay up to date with any policy updates or announcements regarding the coverage?
If there's any changes in coverage, we would be reaching out to each individual policyholder to discuss that with them. So we would probably do that via email, I'd say. We try and keep everyone updated through our social media channels as well. So Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, there's even a TikTok and a Pinterest, but we would never solely rely on social media. So emails would be the best form for us to get in contact with you and discuss that with you. There can't be any changes to a policy mid-term, so it would only happen when you come up to renewing a policy. And in saying that, I don't think we're going to be making those changes or removing car diffusers, so I don't want anyone to worry. But yeah, communication via email would be the best way for us.
Where can listeners learn more about AUZi Insurance?
The best place is probably our website, so just auzi.com, so AUZi.com. And on there, you'll have all our socials and YouTube channels going out.
Beautiful. And is there anything else you'd like to share with the listeners before we wrap up?
I don't want anyone to stop making car diffusers, so I don't want to dishearten anyone, but I just want us to all, ramp up the education and be aware of what could happen in a worst case scenario.
Thank you, Nicole, so much for being on the podcast again. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I can't wait to hear what the listeners think of this episode.
Thanks, Kirsty. It was so good to chat again.
Thank you, my friend, for listening to this episode. Check out the show notes for all the links mentioned throughout the conversation, and please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you're feeling inspired, I would love it if you would write a review for the podcast and give a 5-star rating. Thank you so much, and have a beautiful day.